Welcome to Keeping Up with Our Community, a podcast for and about Romeo Community Schools. Each week, we will invite different guests to share insights about some unique aspects of our schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. Their in-studio podcast experience allows you to record perfect audio and capture amazing video. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. Contact them now via email for a free consultation and schedule a visit at mit.tvpodcast@gmail.com. That's mitt.tvpodcast@gmail.com. Hello, my name is Marian Bresch, and I'm the Communications and Marketing Supervisor for Romeo Community Schools. It is my pleasure to introduce episode 35 of the Keeping Up with Our Community Schools podcast. Today's episode is the first in a series in which we will be talking about the district's annual theme of purpose. Across the district, teachers and staff are writing their personal purpose statements and sharing them with colleagues at staff meetings. Here with us to share theirs are Kelly Rao, 5th grade teacher at Amanda Moore Elementary, Juliet Vitale, a new teacher at Romeo Middle School, and Aaron Schweihofer, DEM Academy Principal. I will now turn it over to Superintendent Dr. Todd Robinson to lead the discussion.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. I am excited because, we're looking forward to really creating a series of podcasts this year over the course of the year around our annual theme of purpose. So I appreciate you guys' willingness to be a part of version 1. And uniquely, I reached out to ask you to be a part of this because I think each of you will bring a little different perspective to the theme for this year, but also just we're only a few weeks into the school year. So at different levels, you've had the ability to engage in your own work in this, but more importantly, maybe even the work with some of your colleagues. So when we talk about our annual theme, on opening day, I'll take you back to the auditorium at the high school and I get super nervous. And then you'll probably remember some of my friends on the high school staff have been asking me for years to do superintendent bingo on opening day. So everyone got this bingo card and all the new teachers, Juliet, were like, what do we do with this?
I didn't win, but it's
okay. So anyways, we had some fun, but, I took some time and just, basically introduced the theme for this year. So, as we dive in, I guess it hasn't been that long ago. I would ask you maybe go back and just in the context of annual themes and hearing this, maybe what were some of your initial thoughts. So Aaron, we'll start with you.
Thank you. And thank you for having me today.
You're welcome.
I think I had a unique experience at the district-wide welcome back meeting because it was not my first time hearing about the theme. And we had done an exercise a little bit prior with the administrators in the summer to brainstorm our own purpose. So that way we could walk into the school year prepared to lead and inspire our staff to do the same. And I remember when you had the panel, you guys remember there was a panel of staff on stage and at least 5 different people affiliated with the district in different roles. We had the RVA school principal, Amy Maruka. We had some teachers up there. I remember Kim Ruhlman, an English teacher from my building, and others in different positions. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh, I've got to do a better job. and it was because in the exercise we did in July, I really thought, I was answering the question, what is my purpose? And I was asked to reflect on my career and my journey. When I reflected on the journey, I focused specifically on what brought me from teaching into an administrative role. And I remember, not word for word in front of me, but that my purpose at the time that we did the first exercise was something along the lines of to help others achieve their goals and find success, whatever their definition may be. And I remembered being inspired to do that because I had people who believed in me and showed me the way. I don't think I'd be a principal if it wasn't for others encouraging me. But so in short, I just want to say I sat there that day and I was like, I'm going to do this again. And I did. And so when we did this with our academies a week ago, we asked everyone in each academy at the high school, 9GA, HHP, BEI, and I am the DEM Academy principal. Some of us just met, so I wanted to remind you that I asked them to really reflect and that it was okay if they had been in the profession for 10 or 20 or more years. It's okay if your purpose evolves. I think that's a really good sign of growth. I think it's something we should challenge ourselves to do on an annual basis. So I think my purpose was different when I was an instructor and I taught history and English in the classroom to high school students. It was different when I was an athletic director versus an assistant principal versus a head principal. And now that I'm an academy principal, I just want to share with you guys that when given the chance to really dive in for this upcoming school year, I decided that my purpose is to promote the safety, learning, and growth of my students and staff. I believe the people I serve need to feel safe, seen, heard, understood, and supported in order to be successful. So I aim to treat everyone I encounter with enthusiasm, empathy, and respect. And one of the best gifts I can give someone is confidence in themselves. So that's where I decided to really hone in on what is my purpose, my role, and how I'm going to do that well.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So there's a lot there, ladies. No pressure. So
Yeah,
let's
Aaron.
I wanna just kind of pause on one thought. Thank you for reminding me that, we took the building administrators and the leadership team on this journey earlier in August. And part of the reason I did that is, I was calling on them to help facilitate this work so that, we could get through this really by this month of September. And also because we were kind of reinventing maybe the things that happen with an annual theme. And we'll come back to that because we're kind of shifting away from the traditional staff award model. And part of that for me was because of what I saw happen with our previous annual theme of Choose Joy and dropping in at staff meetings and things like that. And hearing, people share these compelling, heartfelt nominating statements. So Kelly, you were sitting in the auditorium,
I was.
you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
you had no idea because you didn't have the teaser
Yep.
early in August. So I'll ask you to combine two things similar to what Aaron did, like maybe some initial thoughts about the theme and then work your way towards what your purpose statement is.
So when you gave the theme of this year, I kind of sat back and went, okay, I think I know that. I think I've always felt like I've had a purpose, but I don't know that I've actually put it in writing. So I thought that was an interesting thing to just stop and really have to think about that. Like, okay, what would I write down? And kind of like you, I'm a very veteran teacher at this point. So you said you've changed as you've had your, over your years. And I know my purpose has changed a bit over the years that I've taught. This is year 28 in Romeo. So it's been a while. But it made me just really stop and think, okay, what is my purpose? How am I going to, what do I want to say? If I had to sit down and I had to explain to my kids or my family or you guys, and it really came down to, I've always felt that I wanted to make a difference, and that was always what I did. But I just said I'm a teacher because I want to make a difference. But I really want to be that safe, loving, guiding, constant present for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I want my students to be able to look back at their time with me and just know that I cared. Like, that's above all else. Curriculum's going to happen. I'm going to do the teaching. I'm going to make sure that they're moving through everything they need to get through. But the thing that I want them to remember most is just the feeling of how much I cared and how much I loved them.
That's powerful.
That's amazing.
Yes. So now Juliet brings in that brand new person, didn't experience an annual theme or
Right.
anything like that. I guess Juliet kind of had a little teaser because of new teacher orientation. I typically go back and share with those new staff members what previous annual themes were, and it kind of sets the stage for, I'm not going to tell you what this year's is because we're typically within a week window of when we'd be bringing the whole staff together. So maybe some initial thoughts, Juliet, and then work towards sharing, your
Yeah.
purpose statement.
Yeah, so unlike being a veteran, this is my first year in Romeo, which it's been absolutely incredible. I have such amazing staff and everybody I've met so far. And like Dr. Robinson, you were saying, when we were at the new teacher orientation, he was putting these slides up of all the past themes. And, I've never been in, working in a district yet. I've had my internship and all that, but I never got to experience like a theme every year in your work environment. And when I looked at that, I was like, wow, this gives everybody a sense of where are we driving towards? Where's our next goal we want to reach? Last year was choose joy. What's this year? And when he was putting those slides up, I was trying to guess. I seriously was. I was like, what's it going to be? I don't know. I don't know. And then the next day we saw purpose, and, I'm sitting with all my new teacher friends, and, we're all looking at it. And like, we kind of looked at each other and we were like, okay, this is first year. What is our purpose on this first year? What is our goal that we want to take out of this? And for me, yes, I'm, younger and into this in a different phase of everybody, but I never really knew my purpose even as a young kid. And I think this is how I relate to a lot of my kids is it's hard to know. It really is to know exactly what you think your thing is, and that's your passion, and that's what you love. And mine didn't come till later on after even college. I was like, whoa, is this what I'm going to do? Until I walked in the doors of my first internship and I was like, this is my thing. And that's when I knew this is my passion when I got into that workforce. So again, it comes with experience. And, this takes me to my purpose statement, my purpose point. And I said I strive as an educator to make a positive impact by ensuring every student feels safe and welcome, just like Kelly, and valued. I think a super welcoming environment is, that's how you promote great learning. Any teacher knows that. But also, the number one thing I focus on is the relationships I build with my kids. I always say if I don't have a relationship, I could teach them, all these algebra facts and this and that, but what are they going to take from me when I have no relationship with them? So I think I aim to build a strong relationship to find their purpose. I always say my purpose is to help them find theirs. And that's like my ultimate goal for them, especially as a first year.
Awesome. So, from that day, I guess maybe context for the listeners, especially if it's someone who really isn't directly connected to the teacher. Education is very cyclical.
Yeah.
And when you work in it, you understand that. And when you have school age kids, you understand that. So there's these milestones every year that in some cases we look forward to, and in other cases, maybe we just want to get through them. So we always talk just about that excitement, and every new year is new, and we're now we've settled into the school year, and there's some annual things that I have a little levity with teachers on. So elementary teachers really get fired up for Halloween. Like it's a big thing for kids and families. And if we're candidly honest, we kind of we're happy when it's over because it's another year. High school teachers don't necessarily experience it the same way. However, they've just experienced their version of Halloween, which is homecoming. So you
a lot of costumes.
Yeah, you play along for a week, and when that dance is over, I'm sure, and last Saturday night, and everyone was good and home, and nothing came in Sunday.
Yeah,
it's like
we like an adventure, but
we're
not
grateful.
too
So
Right.
yeah, so it's Thanksgiving, it's winter break, it's midwinter break. It's some annual things, and so for me, it just always seemed like because of that, we could create an intentional focus each year, sometimes very relevant to just the circumstances we in. I think of some of the themes that we had, working our way through the pandemic, and that they were very pertinent to the times. And so, I probably my home run was last year with Choose Joy, and all the people telling me, I don't know how you're going to top that. You should just do it again. And I will tell you, it was very, very late a year ago in the summer before I settled on that, and I was actually a little apprehensive, to do it. Where this year with purpose, it was like, it came very clear to me, and in the spring, and I just kind of let it kind of play out, before putting on paper. So, what I shared, Aaron, with the administrators in an opening day is, purpose is foundational to who we are and what we do and how we do it. And I think one of the things that helps our staff understand, especially some of our support staff who I really want to do this, is it's our why, and everyone has that. And Aaron, thank you for just bringing attention to it can change over time.
Yeah.
It can change because your position changes. It can change because, you're gaining more experience. So our annual theme this year really is just intended to challenge our staff to consider purpose, but do it through three perspectives. So, and our shirts say that this year. And so the first of those is, what is my purpose? And that's each of our own individual purpose. So thank you for sharing your statements because those are certainly powerful. Next is what is our purpose? And our purpose is really could be any level of a team. I have this lofty goal to collect 400 individual purpose statements from our employees, and I don't know a ton about AI, but people who do have told me you can put them in there, and you can use AI to really get some sort of distillation of the perspective of all 400 of those. So that's like one of my goals, but there's other level of ours. And then finally, we're not necessarily to there yet, but it's like, how do we build their purpose? And there, of course, is our students. So my, our, and their, and I would take us back to the my element. And so my goal for this year is that each individual staff member would develop their own purpose statement. And then over the course of staff meetings, maybe at the beginning of a PD session or something, we would ask a group of staff members to volunteer to share their purpose statements with their colleagues. And this is where I would connect back to hearing those heartfelt nominating statements for Choose Joy last year. Like when I hear you say, God, I hadn't thought about putting on paper, but there's some value in doing that. And now I've had just a couple instances, because we're early in the year, of actually hearing a group of staff members share that with their colleagues. And my whole goal is that it's just inspiring and affirming to the group. So Kelly, I'll put you on the spot first, because I did have the privilege of being at Amanda Moore's September staff meeting, and Amy Wojciechowski is our new principal, and I'm texting her the day before, you got to go tap a few people on the shoulder. And she's like, we did this work. That's when I learned that you had taken some time. But talk just about that purpose point in that staff meeting and your experience with sharing.
So it was funny because Amy had sent out a quick thing the day before just saying, hey, if anyone was willing to, and at the time I was just busy and I didn't. But once I walked into the staff meeting, I really felt compelled to kind of tell a story. So I wanted to just kind of share, because I have kind of a personal story that goes with this. So my kids were in the Oxford shooting a few years ago, and my son was very close to when it happened. And after it happened, he swore he was never going back into that high school again. He was just never going back ever. And as the weeks went on and got closer to the time we were going back to school, and he saw some of his teachers who did reach out to him, he realized it was due to the relationship with his teachers that he was actually able to go back into that school, finish out his year. And I talked to him a little bit about it afterwards, just recently. I'm like, well, what did you mean by that? So he said that he was at school. He doesn't talk about it. He'll talk about it with me, but it's not something he brings up with people. But he is actually going into education at OU. And he's, kind of laughed. He's like, okay, Mom, everyone in my class knows me. I'm the only guy in class. And he's like, they all know my name anyway. He's like, but now they know me for a different reason. I'm like, oh, what's that? He said they did the 2 truths and a lie icebreaker. And he said, one of the truths I put down was that I was in a school shooting. And it kind of surprised me. I'm like, okay, what was your reason for saying that? Why did that come up now? Because, he's never, even he's got to be out. He doesn't tell anyone why. He's like, well, Mom, I wanted them to know that it was the relationship with my teachers that got me back into that school. And he's like, it felt like they needed to know that these are all people who are going to be future educators. And he's like, and it's my reason for going back, for being a teacher too. I want to be that teacher for kids. And it just made me stop and go, okay, obviously that was my thoughts. That's what I kind of felt before, but
Yeah.
it made me stop and go, okay, it made my purpose very clear when he said that I have to be that teacher for all these kids too, no matter what they're going through,
Yeah.
that, they have to know that I care. And so I shared that at the staff
Yeah.
meeting too. And I was just like, I feel like people need to hear that our relationship with kids make a difference. I think we're always told, oh, it makes a difference, but we don't necessarily see or hear that in real life. And I really am to the point where I want people to know what a difference they make.
So the staff sharings uniquely could have heard a pin drop, by the way, when
yeah, I'm over here misty eyed.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful testimony to what we do. Thank you for
so
sharing.
and I think also part of how your purpose has evolved, unfortunately through a horrific tragedy, but and in the perspective or what you're seeing in your son, who's going to be a phenomenal elementary school teacher, and we need those. We need more males in that. So we help it. So Juliet, what about you? Because I don't know how it came about, but when I saw the list of staff members, I think it was 3 or 4 from the middle school at the first meeting, I'm like, ooh, look at the new girls stepping up. So
Okay, so I have a little secret.
Okay.
I did step up in a way, but it was in my 6th hour class. I got a little visit from my AP and Brad Martz, and he was like, hey, do you want to do a purpose point? I was in the middle of teaching. I'm like, sure, let's do it. I'm like, why not? So I'm like, okay. So after work, I went home because I didn't have mine ready, in the midst of this first year stuff. I'm like, I don't even know where to go right now or what to do. I don't know if I should eat dinner right now. Right. I don't know. So, I was like, okay, I need to go sit down and do my purpose point. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. It took me a minute. I had it, have it ready the next day and to present to everybody. And I just sat there and I was just thinking, and the only thing that helped me make this purpose point come to fruition was my reflection on my life and my past. And that's one of the things, I tell my kids is this reflection that we always do in our lives. And, how things, like Erin said, we always change, right? So I did a lot of reflection, and that's how mine, came about. I was like, how did I even get to this point? How am I at Romeo right now? I graduated Michigan State. Where am I at right now?
Mm-hmm.
So, I look back on mine and I was like, I didn't even know I had my major picked out, education. I actually used to be engineering. I did not want to be a teacher, which is so crazy to me. And it's what took me to realize I wanted to become one was to go through that experience of knowing I don't like this. And that's what I tell my kids all the time, my students. I'm like, hey, you might not like this, but that's how you figure out where you got to go sometimes. And that's what happened for me. So when I was writing my purpose point, I was like, I want to help kids find their own purpose through my purpose, right? And then when we had to go share them, I was nervous too, but because I built that relationship with my staff in those past few weeks, it was very I was excited to share them, and I know I'm a fresh face to them, but after that they were like, thanks for sharing that. That was really nice to hear from someone we don't really know that well in the few weeks. And even comparing to the other ones, we all had similarities between ours, and the one thing was, we all wanted the absolute best for our kids. No matter what form it came, we all had that in common. And then the differences come from our experiences, right? Not everybody's, in the same boat, but that's kind of how I looked at mine. But mine was a surprise on me, so it was fun to do.
Yeah. Well, you got it out of the way early. I joke with staff it's like the 5th grade book report. Everyone's gonna do one. Are you gonna be the go first?
We got our marker little magnets.
Yeah.
That was fun. Our purpose point.
Yeah. So thanks for that. Yeah, I should give a shout out to Mike and Sarah Savage, because Mr. Savage, unfortunately, he hides from me in August because I'm always asking him, hey, can we 3D print this little artifact? So we've chosen on the exclamation point as kind of our symbol for purpose, and those are neat little trophies or whatever. So So thank you for sharing that. And, I really hope that as, we work through this year, you'll hear from some of your colleagues. Some of them that very well might listen to this and be inspired to go down and tell their principal, like, I'm up for October, and our goal is to create enough capacity so that everyone would have an opportunity. But, it's no one, not everyone will have to go, but I think it's probably a safe bet people will want to do. Am I right in that regard?
I
Do you?
think so.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. So,
absolutely.
Aaron, maybe we can pivot a little to kind of our purpose, because you've kind of created a little bit of focus for the Dem Academy staff, and some of the work you've done. So, talk a little bit about that, because I know you guys used some of the September meeting time, but you'd
Yeah.
be ready to roll in October.
Yeah, so at the high school building, as you know, in our 4 academies, we have 4 separate staff meetings. And so we teamed together, and much credit to my colleagues, Mike Jones in the Health and Human Professions Academy, Amber Fountain in Business Entrepreneurship and Innovation, and Melissa Arntz at the Ninth Grade Academy. We shared a template. And so we brought that to our academy staff meetings, where we have between 20 and 25 staff members each, and we went over the normal housekeeping stuff and some activities, but we saved a good portion at the end of our meeting dedicated to this brainstorm session. And what we challenged them to do was walk themselves through, I think you used a great word, Juliet, just reflection. And in order to assess where you're at today, I think it's important that we really look behind us and what brought us to this point. I thought that was a great example of what your son went through and how it brought him some mental clarity about what he wants to do in the future. Not saying he wouldn't be a teacher, but I think that he has a different purpose, having his personal experiences, and we all have a journey. And so, what I asked my staff to do was think about their journey, think about what they look forward to when they come in the building every day. What gets them out of bed on those difficult days can often, speak to what your mission is, when you walk in the door at work. And so, we had a template on a Google slide, and I had the privilege of, reading them as they came in. And I can't speak as to how many faculty read the other purpose statements yet, but I read them and I was moved. And one of the things I want to share at this table and to anyone listening is it was so amazing to me the number of ways that people could word and pinpoint their purpose, and yet how incredibly similar and what a collective purpose we have. I know from working in other districts and 16 years in education, I know you have a lot too, Kelly, that you've seen a lot of different approaches to district themes, or even if there isn't a name for it, there is a mission and a vision. But I want to say, as a compliment to Romeo, this is my second year in this district, and it's just a living testament that we have a shared purpose. This exercise we're doing right now will impact the way we approach, how we help kids learn and student achievement. And all the research, Dr. Robinson, says that one of the most important things a district can do is have a shared purpose. So I just want to say, the statements that our teachers put together on the slideshow, we printed out, we laminated them. They're on the entrance to the classroom, so every student can see and recognize that really bright red template with the purpose logo, and then they have each teacher's words underneath. So I think it helps bring us together as a team, and all of them spoke to similar ideas of, building relationships and creating a positive culture and helping students learn.
So, it's always good when an idea comes together, and one of the things I was thinking about, just in hearing Aaron speak was, I talked to the administrative team, I talked to the staff on opening day, like, we spend a lot of time on our strategic plan, and we have a solid mission statement, we have a solid vision statement, but like sometimes I think we need to get out of our head and into our heart, because we have a unique, if you remember the little video I showed, like they had all those people of varying ages kind of giving their thought about purpose. And there was the one gentleman that spoke to that uniqueness that in education, or there's professions where your personal purpose and your professional purpose are more directly aligned. And so we're really lucky. We're fortunate to have that. And so so it's good to hear that we're the folks in the Dem Academy, like I've read some of them because I'm asking people to submit them electronically to
good.
me, and it's like, wow, if I'm having a rough day, it never fails. If I go hang out with a young fives classroom, it'll automatically make me feel better.
Wow.
But just reading a series of purpose statements really would be a
I go in the construction room when I'm having a
there
bad
you
day.
go. So Kelly, you guys had kind of a unique experience. You got a new building principal in that, and I'm grateful that Amy kind of seized what we did with the administrative team. So talk about, in the lens of our purpose or the Amanda Moore staff, what do you guys do uniquely that might be kind of fostering a building purpose?
Yeah, so Amy, for our kind of get to know you activities and getting to know a new administrator, her whole theme was the Olympics, because the Olympics had just ended. They were just kind of going on. And so she had a whole Olympic theme. And so she had one of ours was we had to light our way. So it was basically a purpose statement. And we didn't even kind of really realize it at the time that we were writing that and kind of getting ahead of things. But we had our light our way purpose statement. What was the torch that we were bearing? And she had some guiding questions for us. Why did you become a teacher? What are some of the core beliefs that guide your teaching? What keeps you motivated? What are some of the things that the achievements in the students' lives that you are proud of? And so we just kind of took that and just did that, and then we didn't share with everyone. They were kind of private statements, but we got to the point where I have heard a few of them now, whether it's at the staff meeting or from my colleagues, and there are a lot of similarities, and yes, they're all written differently. It's interesting. I don't know that I've heard one that says my purpose is getting through the curriculum. I haven't heard that at all. Not anywhere on there. But they are all student-based. And yes, they have the students' best interests at heart, every single one that I have heard. So it's been interesting. And it's been nice, because it was Amy getting to know us, but it was also us not only getting to know Amy, but getting to know each other. And, it was a really good opening day to go through this and kind of feel our purpose that way.
Great. So Juliet, I guess I'll ask you specifically, maybe through the lens of middle school. You have this team, this eighth grade team that you're a part of, that you guys are kind of forming, and I'm curious your thoughts on the possibility of you're in a disciplinary team, maybe grabbing onto this our purpose, or is it your math department team, and how the collection of purpose may come together for you guys to look at it from that team level?
Yeah, so looking at it from like our eighth grade team, we're all broken up into 3 different teams, the eighth grade, and we all have goals. At every single team meeting, we have our spread of what we got to get done and what are the good stuff, and something we've learned in the professional development. We did Capturing Kids' Hearts, and that was like a huge 2-day extravaganza, which was absolutely phenomenal. Amazing speaker that came in. And one of the things that Romeo Middle School has been doing, and even just across teams and boards, is something called Good Things. And it's, everybody has to share one good thing that has happened to them. And we stress, even if it's something sad, let's keep it good. It could be, like I had a kid the other day. He goes, "You know what, Miss Vitale, I woke up today and I feel good." And when he said that, I was like, see, it doesn't even need to be, I got an A or I won this game. It could be the most simple things in life. And, when we were going through our Team 8 meeting and we were reflecting, I'm like, we do the good things as well as staff. We don't make our kids just do it. Our purpose is to help them find their purpose, right? At least, for me and several other people. And we do our good things, whether it's, I noticed that, Johnny did this today. That was an amazing thing. Or just, my coworker, Amy Paulson, who I absolutely adore, and she's been saving my butt when I need her. I'm like, "Hey, Amy, how do I do this?" But, she has influenced me in a way where she shares her good things and I share my good things, and it just helps us bond together. Like Kelly was saying when, they were meeting their new building principals, what is our purpose? Why are we here? And one of those things was doing that thing called good things. You know,
Yeah.
it helps focus on the good in life and not
Sure.
always the bad, because I think sometimes we can get wrapped up in negative energy, and it's again going back to that reflection. So I'm very happy with, you know, eighth grade team and doing all the things we've been doing. It's been
Yeah.
really fun with them.
So I look forward because I know a part of the transformation work is that you guys are uniquely going to name your teams. So we
Yeah.
don't do 8A, 8B, 8C.
I know. I'm like,
Yeah.
what am I? Am I A, B, or C? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
So,
But yeah.
so you talked a little bit about kids and I think we'll transition into this kind of last piece of the three legs in this their purpose. And I this is a part where I think it takes a little bit more thought and if there was any part of this theme that I wasn't sure how it would land, it was probably this concept of their purpose and I don't think I'm really hopeful this year because I talked to the staff about we're in step right now, step one. Like, let's create our purpose. Let's begin to share those. And then we'll go from there, how this might come together. It could be the Amanda Moore staff, it could be the fifth grade level team, but their purpose, like, it's amazing to me when I thought about this, how many structures are in place already that help develop purpose in our kids at all levels. And it is very different. We can talk about being a teacher, to being an administrator. Like I reflected myself, like what would it have been when I was a teacher? What is it as a building administrator, and what would it be now as a superintendent? But for kids, I think building purpose in our students is inherently part of the work that we do. And as I said, student purpose can exist at all ages. It's just different based on the age and grade level of the kids. So when we think about that, maybe a couple examples of what ways are we intentionally, possibly inadvertently, giving kids purpose. So Kelly, I'll ask you to share a thought or two on that.
I think we focus a lot in fifth grade on just how we treat others and kindness and just being aware of that. Just because I feel like that's, it's one of those pivotal years too. They're going off to middle school. They're going to be meeting a bunch of new people. And I just feel like that we really focus on that kindness and then responsibility, taking responsibility for your actions, taking responsibility for your things. So those are kinds of the purposes we try to help them set through, various things that we do with our SEL time and, different books that we read and conversations that we have and, the different jobs with the safety patrol and different things that they have that they have to do in the school. So we try to, try to build that up with them, for them before they come to you in the middle school.
That's so great because I was coming to Amanda Moore the one day and you were out with the safety patrol and they working on teaching them how to put the flag up and down. So there's definitely a purpose lesson in that.
Yeah.
So that's great. Aaron, what's your thoughts? Because we think about high school kids and like it can get much deeper.
Complex.
If we're talking about even the academy's work and stuff like that. So just talk a little bit about, how are we doing that?
Well, I want to say first thing I want to say is at the secondary level, we couldn't do any of what our goals are without the foundation that you guys, you lay and you put in the work. So when they come to us in the ninth grade and they begin that high school journey, they are ready for the mission and we give them the choices. So we want them to take that ownership, but they couldn't, I don't think, hit the ground running if they weren't ready. So in our building, I think we have just such an amazing opportunity for them to have college and career readiness experience. And a lot of preparation and work goes into the academy model. So in ninth grade, I think they do a phenomenal job focusing on those qualities and skills that are going to make them both employable and also successful in the workplace. And it may start with a post-secondary option like a college or university. It may be going into the trades. It might be having some pre-professional experience or vocational training, or it could be going right into the military. But what we do is we celebrate all those pathways and we want to get them ready to do that. I think it's a really unique model. I know that we're not the only one that exists out there, but I think we're doing something so special. And I think, like I said, in the ninth grade, they focus on that portrait of a graduate and they really introduce the skills and desired outcomes. They have teams with cool names that I like to joke are like all SUVs, like, Discovery or Expedition. And, like and once they are on those teams and small learning communities, the staff help them to explore what is the desired pathway, right? So when students have that choice, my academy is one of three, and I love working with DEM kids, and that's design, engineering, and manufacturing. So it's really an eclectic group of students who want to work with their hands in maybe construction or manufacturing, but it's also really creative, artistic kids who might want to go into video production, or it's the very mechanically mathematical minded who are some of our top 10 every year,
Mhm.
who want to go into engineering. But I think that, at the high school, we're looking at what their interests are and making sure that when they find their purpose, that we celebrate all pathways and we embrace all opportunities that are going to help them get there.
Yeah. So a structure in place is that profile of the graduate, and we kind of reauthorized that last year, and we talk about the three P's and the three C's, and these are really what we call graduate strengths. And so when we hand a kid a diploma, we want in these six key areas, kids, those to be a strength for kids. And we listen to our business partners, we listen to higher ed, we listen to our own staff and parents, and purposeful is one of those. So so there's structures in place, and I hope that our staff just doesn't make that more of a heavy lift than it really is. I had a conversation with one of our early childhood teachers about, what does purpose look like for a 4-year-old in preschool, and it's so funny because they talk about some of the things you talk about with your fifth graders. Well, first of all, depending on the size of our family, we have to learn that we're not the only show in town, and now we have to share and we have to treat others with kindness. We need to be a good listener. When it's time to learn, it's time to learn, and when it's time to play, it's time to play. So I think I'm just hopeful that as we go on this journey that we might even see some students at different ages creating their own purpose statement specific to where they are, and that would just be a gift. So I'm going to head us to a close and ask each of you to reflect a little bit on, um, think forward and what you know right now about the theme, what you've experienced individually, and maybe what you've heard from some of your colleagues, either formally in a staff meeting or not. How do you see this playing out this year? Juliet?
For me, I feel like being at a middle school level, sometimes it can be hard to gauge a middle schooler to understand, what is my purpose? At eighth grade, it can be an awkward age. I mean, I remember myself at that age and I was like, I don't know. So I think for them, it's how can we make it as smooth as possible for them to understand that, because they sometimes are in that I don't know stage a lot. And listen, I was there too. I tell them all the time. I'm like, I've been in your shoes. I get it. So just finding a way to help them gauge, what is my purpose? And I always look back at reflection, even in fifth grade, like what was something that made you feel purposeful? Maybe it was helping somebody, maybe it was that safety patrol, maybe that could gauge, that can make you realize maybe you want to help the community, or maybe you don't want to do something where it's like that. Maybe you want to go into more of like an engineering mindset, and, just finding a way and for them to see that and get them that clarity that they desire is a number one goal for me.
So interesting, the heart of the transformation, and you're learning this, now. But like I tell people, well, you talk about this academies at Romeo Middle School. What does that mean? And it isn't more of the same from the high school. It has similar structure to it. But, I always tell people we want to take our middle level adolescents and teach them how to be good humans.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's been longer for some of us than others. And I spent 15 years as a middle school principal. I wouldn't want to be 12, 13, or 14 years old again. Like, you're so worried about what the rest of the world thinks about you and how you're going to fit in. And so really, we're really hopeful with this focus on nonprofit and community service agencies and serving, that we can almost divert the attention of our middle level adolescents to something else. And then if nothing else, they're not consumed about how am I fitting in?
Right.
What is my purpose? So, we're kind of inadvertently over the next few years going to hopefully do this right so that we give kids purpose to serve. Because no matter what profession we go into at some point as an adult, that's going to be an option. As a part of our professional work or as a part of our personal desire. So Kelly, your thoughts about this playing out this year?
So I think it's just the perfect theme this year, especially with having the new administration and this transition year for us. I just think it's going to be a really good way for all of us to get to know each other. And I like listening. I like hearing other people's purposes. And I think everyone else does too. And I think it's just going to be a way for us to kind of bond over this year. I like this.
Awesome. Erin?
I have to agree. I think it's a bonding opportunity. I think that much like last year, which was my first year at Romeo, that it is really about staff morale and a positive culture. And when you ask people to choose joy and you ask people to remember your purpose, there's really no way to do that and end up feeling, less energy than before. I think it's a really good exercise. I'll give one example. My administrative assistant, Tammy Lester, she said to me after the staff meeting when these started coming in and we talked about hanging them up, she said, do I have to do this too? I said, Tammy, yes, you're just as important as everyone here. And I think you're going to feel good afterwards. That's what I told her. I said, no rush. You're going to feel good. And she, hemmed and hawed, not complaining, but she just was really putting a lot of thought into it. And she said, you were right. It felt really good.
Yeah.
It's like a refocus and centering on your values and making sure, I think, that our staff and students feel valued and appreciated for our uniqueness. I think that that's something that brings everybody together.
Yeah. I guess I would simply say to maybe parents who might listen to the podcast, like, don't hesitate at some point in time this year when the time is right to ask the teachers of your children what their teacher's purpose statement is. And sometimes someone was mentioning content, you know what I'm saying? And that's part of what we do, but the work isn't getting any easier. And so, but everyone has a reason. I talked with our admin team a little bit more than opening day about, everyone has a moral purpose, kind of in why they chose to work with youth. And I would put that into each and every employee in our school district. So my purpose now is to get to our support staff because we're really rolling with our administrative staff, and I've kind of done a sneak peek. There's a couple bus drivers who have put their purpose statement in, and I'm excited about that because I got some people to inspire their colleagues in the transportation department. So I appreciate you guys being a part of the podcast, but also just how I've felt, and as we've gotten into this journey, uniquely each of you, like. You're extremely purposeful in the work you do. It doesn't matter how many years. And I'm grateful for the impact that you'll have on the kids and your colleagues this year and in another year of the journey.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having
It
us.
was a pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
Well, that was our first in a series on our purpose theme. Expect to hear more from teachers, staff, and administrators throughout the year as they share their individual purpose statements too. Next up, we'll be hearing from Principal Rita Van Staveren and several teachers about Hamilton Parsons' new character education programs, Capturing Kids' Hearts and the Positivity Project. Thank you for joining us, and tune in next week to keep up with Romeo Community Schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. Their in-studio podcast experience allows you to record perfect audio and capture amazing video. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. Contact them now via email for a free consultation and schedule a visit at mit.tvpodcast@gmail.com. That's mitt.tvpodcast@gmail.com.